Share specific examples of programs and actions you would take as governor to enhance the long-term success of agriculture in rural Minnesota.
Well, thank you, Mark. I'll give you two right away. First, you lower taxes. You absolutely have to lower taxes, and you have to address tillable land supporting everything else. And if you look in our history, if you lower taxes, and I love everybody who talks about, we need to put more money here, we need to put more money here, we're going to cut some stuff, we're going to raise some others. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know what's been happening in this country over the past several decades. What we've been doing has not been working. You've got to lower taxes. You've got to put more money in the people's pockets so they can create their own opportunities. And when we talk about our great farms across the state of Minnesota, you've got to start to have the regulatory agencies work with the farmers and not against them. I go up north and I find out, I meet Amos and Eamon Bear, who run a hog operation that they wanted to expand in this state. 2 years and $40,000 just to get through the state permitting process. And if they had gotten through the permitting process, there was no guarantee they would have gotten the permits. But even if they did, they had to go county and state, or city. Guess what? They opened in North Dakota in 6 months. They have a payroll of $1.4 million. Those jobs should be here in Minnesota.
Well, Tom and I are going to have a little disagreement on policy because the no new taxes that we've seen coming out of Governor Peleni and with Tom's help have not been helping the farms here in southwest Minnesota. They've been helping the mansions around Lake Minnetonka. Those are the folks that are getting the big tax breaks and holding the big tax breaks and bluntly paying less taxes as a percentage of their income than you are or my relatives are who are farming. And the tax burden has been pushed onto fees and onto property taxes. We absolutely need to help make sure that we get more money out of the bottom line, Mark. And that means that we need to get property taxes down. But that means that we can't be balancing budgets on the backs of rural Minnesota, where when local government aid keeps becoming the favorite place to cut, and of course that hits our rural communities particularly hard, it doesn't hurt the crowd around Minnetonka hard, it hurts you. And it hurts poor communities. Secondly, we need to find other ways to do value added. One of those is, of our $10 billion we spend on energy, 95% of that leaves the state. We need to create more opportunities for farmers rather than big out-of-state corporations owning wind power and wind turbines and creating more jobs in Minnesota so that you get the money from that rather than out-of-state corporations.
Given the way Representative is becoming the campaign punching bag, I'm kind of hesitant to actually agree with him, but I will on this. I'll say we do need fewer taxes. We do need to make Minnesota more business-friendly. And just because we do that doesn't mean we're benefiting the rich. Also included in my budget proposal is an increase or an additional creation of an additional tax bracket on the uber rich, those families making $250,000 or more a year. And that's not going to be a tax on small business, as others have suggested. It's going to be a tax on the rich, who derive their income, the majority of those people, 94% of them, from forms of revenue and business other than small business. So we need to make Minnesota more business-friendly, and that applies to the farms. And we can't just keep going on and throwing out money here, throwing out money there. You're going to hear a theme from me over and over today that sometimes, and in this case often, less is more.
Mark Dayton.
Well, I agree with you to reduce taxes, particularly property taxes, and anyone who thinks that the proposal to eliminate local government aids and county aids and to reduce state funding for education is not going to result in higher property taxes for farmers and everyone else does not understand the basic fiscal realities of the state of Minnesota. Mark, I appreciate that you're providing credit, and that's a key part of agriculture. It's no substitute for farm income. And as I learned from Norm Larson, a farmer in Nobles County, when I first ran for the Senate in 1982, farmers are going to make a profit in the marketplace, as my family did in retailing, as anyone else does, in order to be successful. So the price of corn today in Minnesota is less in real dollars after inflation, is only about 3/4 of what it was when I was running for the Senate in 1982, when the cost of production had gone up. And that's true of the commodities across the spectrum in Minnesota. There's something terribly wrong in this country with underpricing our value of our farm commodities, forcing reliance on credit rather than on profits.
Margaret Anderson Keller.
This is all about jobs.
this whole election's about jobs. It's the #1 thing. Our economy and jobs are on people's minds. We have 204,000 Minnesotans out of work, more than that most likely. What we need to do is we need to have a strong economy across the state, everywhere in the state. And so that's why I put together a jobs plan. That's why I believe so strongly in organizations like AURI. And I fought to make sure their funding was restored in this budget so that it wasn't cut 50%, because look at the good work they're doing on value-added agriculture. We know the key is raising the profit above the cost of production, and that means finding innovative ways to do that. Whether it's my support for biofuels in the state of Minnesota, making them more efficient and more effective in the state, and being able to make sure that we have small business credit in the state of Minnesota. So when you have that good idea and you want to start that business on Main Street, you can have the credit to do it. It's all about creating a better life for people in the state of Minnesota. I'm going to be a partner in doing that as governor.
Tom Horner.
I think the critical issue in 2010 is leadership. Who's going to take Minnesota into the future? And to do that, we need to stop fighting the battles, the political battles of the last 8 years, and focus on what the agenda ought to be for the next 8 years. And so under a Governor Horner, we are going to have a state in which we let teachers teach, we let businesses create jobs, and we let farmers farm. And we get there by creating a government that is smaller, that is less onerous, less bureaucratic, but also smarter. We need to be making investments in the future. We need to be making investments in our infrastructure, rail, in 10-ton roads to get your products to market. We need to be making investments in education, in our schools. We need to have a permitting process, a regulatory process in which the government says, guaranteed, 6 months, you'll have an answer. We're not going to drag these decisions out for a year, 18 months, 2 years, 6 months, you'll have an answer.
Candidates, we're going to take our first